The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And hello again, wrestling fans. Welcome to another edition of This Week in History. This week we are going to look at the week of October 22nd to the 28th. I want to thank our sponsors, as always. Coolbet, remind you to stay cool and bet responsibly. We are available right now, Thursday at noon on YouTube and Facebook, plus, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere else you get your podcasts from. I want to thank you for being a part of this show. And as I said, October 22nd to 28th, we have birthdays to look at. We have some title switches, but most appropriately, and considering right now we're actually recording this Tuesday night, just before NXT Halloween Havoc, this episode is loaded with almost every Halloween Havoc from WCW, except for, I think, 1995, which will be on next week's episode, where Hogan and the Giant go head-to-head on Cobo Hall in a monster truck. But we'll talk about that next week. This week, if you're a lover of Halloween Havoc, good or bad, we have that covered this week. And before we can do that, we have to go to Jonesy in Niagara Falls. How are you?
Good. Halloween Havoc is one of my favorite sets.
Yeah, I think I have a picture of that coming up somewhere along the way. And also, I know when it's talked about with Eric Bischoff on 83 Weeks and Conrad Thompson, he talks about there being tentpole events in company history. And, with WWE, we obviously know it's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. But for WCW, Eric Bischoff was saying that Halloween Havoc was pretty much their WrestleMania. Even though most fans would have thought it was Starrcade, he posts that as being actually Halloween Havoc because it had more significance, at least during his tenure under WCW management. And Bill always tried to build that up as the big event of the year for WCW.
Interesting.
So so if you're ready to go, let's do this.
Okie dokie, October 22nd, 27 years ago at an All Japan Pro Wrestling 22nd anniversary show in Tokyo, Tohashi Kawada defeated Dr. Death Steve Williams to win the All Japan Triple Crown Championship.
And weird being able to carry three belts around. Why not just combine it into one belt and call it Triple Crown?
Because three belts looks awesome. 26 years ago, WWF presented In Your House 4 Great White North. Goldust defeated Marty Jannetty. This was Goldust's in-ring debut. King Mabel and Yokozuna fought to a double countout. Yoko replaced The Undertaker after he suffered a broken orbital bone days earlier. Dean Douglas is awarded the WWF Intercontinental Championship via forfeit due to a Shawn Michaels injury. He was so happy to get that. And Razor Ramon defeated Dean Douglas to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship. The win made Douglas the shortest reigning Intercontinental Championship in WWF history at just 13 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yeah, I actually remember this event really well. I loved Goldust. I didn't know at first that it was going to be Dustin Rhodes when they were previewing him coming. But then when you finally saw him, it was you knew it was Dustin Rhodes. And I love Dustin from first time I saw him on WWE at Saturday Night's Main Event. But there was something missing with his presentation. He didn't have the black makeup yet, and it was a very underwhelming match against Marty. I don't know if it was just because it was Marty and he might not have been in the best of condition for that event. But yeah, it started off really slow for Goldust. I remember hearing a lot of backlash on that. And then with the Intercontinental title, that was forfeited because Shawn Michaels had been jumped in Syracuse, and he still had a black eye going into that event and supposedly not cleared. And, of course, the Clique didn't like Shane Douglas at all. So for him to just be handed the belt to drop it to Razor was them getting a good laugh at Shane Douglas. Yeah, he does not have fond memories of being around the Clique. And so, yeah, decent event overall when you look past some of the backstage antics.
Yeah, I like Douglas, but not when he was Dean.
Yeah. I think I cut you off about the main event.
And the main event was the British Bulldog defeating Diesel by DQ in a WWF Championship match. The match was so bad, legend has it, that Vince McMahon was so disgusted with the main event, he slammed down his headset and screamed horrible, leading to the decision to end Diesel's long reign as WWF champion a month later.
Yeah, it takes two to tango on that one, but it worked out in the end with switching Diesel back to a heel somewhat when he lost to Bret at Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm. 21 years ago, WWF presented No Mercy. The main draw was the in-ring return of Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was out of action since the previous year's Survivor Series due to a neck injury. Chris Jericho defeated X-Pac in a steel cage match. Stone Cold Steve Austin fought Rikishi to a no contest in a no-holds-barred match. William Regal defeated Naked Midian to retain the WWF European Championship. The Los Conquistadors, who turned out to be Edge and Christian in masks, defeated the Hardy Boys to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Kurt Angle and Kurt Angle defeated The Rock in a no DQ match to win the WWF Championship. And of course, next week, the Los Conquistadors would return, but it would be Matt and Jeff that would have them on instead.
It's actually coming up, I think, the next day.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in this episode. Actually,
right.
a couple pictures away. But yeah,
Awesome.
Rikishi, unfortunately, this could have been a decent heel run because Lord knows his run as the Sultan as a heel was not any good, even with Backlund and Iron Sheik in his corner. But unfortunately, the way they did it was horrible because, as you mentioned, Steve Austin was just getting back from his accident at Survivor Series where he was run over by a truck. And it was revealed just before Austin came back that it was Rikishi who did it for The Rock. I don't know why he spoke that way because Lord knows Rikishi doesn't talk that broken English at all, and he's from San Francisco.
When you turn bad, sometimes your speech and character changes too.
Oh, clearly. But yeah, he did it for The Rock, and The Rock didn't want him to do it apparently, and so they were not on the same page. And then, obviously Steve's going to come back and be kicking ass and winning. So Rikishi was dead in the water regardless. I feel bad in a way, but at least his sons are doing well with their cousin Roman with the bloodline.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. 20 years ago in Tokyo, Japan, E.G. Ezaki, a.k.a. Hayabusa, is paralyzed following a botched lion salt attempt during a frontier martial arts wrestling event. The paralysis of Ezaki would be the fatal blow to FMW, as he was the face of the company. FMW was was $1 million in the red to various Japanese organizations. FMW founder Shoshi Arari, one of Izaki's closest friends, was found hung in a park in Tokyo just 3 months later. As for Izaki, he would become a singer in 2007. Late in 2015, Izaki would regain use of his legs and stand on his own and walk with a cane. On March 3rd, 2016, Izaki died of a subarachnoid hemorrhage in his home in Tokyo. He was 47.
Yeah, I gotta love medical terms and foreign names on that one. Speaking of FMW, I know I unfortunately have not seen it yet, but the guys with Dark Side of the Ring did do a episode involving the controversies about FMW, including the hanging of their own promoter and owner. So if you get a chance to go back and look at a couple of the episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, I think Thursday night is the final one for the season, and they're going to do the steroid scandal.
Oh, neat.
But so I'm definitely looking forward to that one. But there is an FMW episode if you're interested in finding out the dirt from this doomed company of Japan.
Yeah, I did watch it, and it is a good watch. 20 years ago on Raw from Kansas City, Missouri, 4 championships changed hands, including 3 title changes in consecutive matches. We seen Tajiri defeat Billy Kidman to win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Kurt Angle defeated Rhino to win the WCW United States Championship. Bradshaw defeated the Hurricane to win the WWF European Championship. Then later on in the night, Chris Jericho and The Rock would defeat the Dudley Boys to win the WWF Tag Team Championship.
It's a lot of gold being tossed around. You'd think
all in one show, almost too many belts.
You'd think Russo and them were responsible for that, considering how many belts they like to just trade away.
15 years ago, TNA presented Bound for Glory. This was Kurt Angle's TNA pay-per-view debut. Samoa Joe defeated Abyss, Brother Runt, and Maven in a Monsters Ball match. Jake Roberts was the special guest referee. Chris Sabin defeated Senshi to win the TNA X Division Championship. Latin American Exchange, Hernandez and Homicide defeated AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels in a 6 sides of steel cage match to win the NWA World Tag Team belts. And Sting defeated Jeff Jarrett to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Kurt Angle was the special enforcer, and had Sting lost, he would have been forced to retire.
Yeah, because that would have happened. How many retirement matches have people like Sting, Hogan, Flair, Terry Funk, and all of them had? And the stipulation means nothing. Mick Foley.
Yes, but Sting, he didn't. I don't think he had many of these matches where he actually lost.
Exactly.
Unlike others that would lose, but then of course, Ric Flair lost many of those matches, and he always managed to come back. 14 years ago on Raw, Beth Phoenix defeated Candace Michelle to zip in a best-of-3 falls match to retain the WWE Women's Championship. The match had a rush ending when Candace broke her clavicle when Beth ran the ropes, knocking Candace off and falling in an awkward position. In her first match back in March, her clavicle is essentially shattered when it's broken in 4 places, taking out of a scheduled tag match at WrestleMania, and Candace would be released later that summer. It's a happy 79th birthday to WWF's first Triple Crown champion, Pedro Morales. Morales debuted for the WWF in November 1970. In January of 71, he defeated Pat Patterson to win the vacated WWF United States Championship, only for him to vacate it a month later because he became the WWF World Champion when he defeated Ivan Koloff. As champion, Morales made an appearance at an AWA event, defeating Ray Stevens in a best-of-3 falls match, then beating Larry Hennig. He would lose the title to Stan Stasiak on December 1st, 1973, ending his world title run at over 1,000 days, which was the 5th longest championship reign in WWE history. He would also have successful runs in AWA, New Japan, and the Indies before returning to the WWF, and quickly won the tag titles, and then champ Bob Backlund. He'd have to vacate the tag titles due to Backlund still holding the main gold in WWF. Pedro would quickly win the IC belt from Patera 1 day after John Lennon's death. After a successful career in the WWF, his final in-ring appearance came in November of 1987 in a battle royale. In the months following the event, Morales made occasional appearances on camera as a WWF official. Following his retirement, he provided commentary for both WWF and WCW. His combined runs of 619 days to this day remain the most by anyone in WWE history. He was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame in 1995.
And passed away in 2019. I can't say I remember anything about Pedro. I started watching wrestling September of 86, and according to the list here, he was around, but yeah, I don't remember him in 87 being there. So it was very scarce, and probably more so, I would imagine, a part of the MSG network stuff that was available only in the States with the special events in Boston Gardens, MSG, and Chicago and stuff like that we didn't get here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember him only because Gorilla Monsoon would talk about him, but never really seen him wrestle. But he had a very successful career, especially in the WWF.
Yeah, well, one of the first Triple Crown winners.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to October 23rd. 27 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 94. This one featured a career versus career world title match between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. In a pre-show dark match, Booker T defeated Brian Armstrong, Johnny B. Bad, and the Honky Tonk Man to a 10-minute time limit draw for the WCW World Television Championship, and the Honky was fired due to a dispute. Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair in a steel cage career versus career match to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Mr. T was the special enforcer. As a result of the loss, Flair was forced to retire yet again.
Yeah, I think I remember Sherry being a part of this as well and trying to climb the cage because she was in Ric Flair's corner. And the stuff with Honky Tonk Man, that's been brought up also with Eric Bischoff in 83 Weeks. And he has nothing but disdain for Wayne Ferris and never wanting to work with him ever again. I guess Honky's ego was bigger than what it should have been for WCW just moving over to there, and they weren't going to put up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had it good in WWF. He should have just stayed there. 21 years ago on Raw's War, the Hardy Boys, disguised as the Los Conquistadors, defeated Edge in a handicap match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. 20 years ago, Rodney Akatopu Anoa'i, a.k.a. Yokozuna, would pass at the age of 34. Born in 1966, San Francisco, Anoa'i grew up in the famed wrestling family and was trained by his uncles, the Wild Samoans. His wrestling career started as the Great Coquina, then AWA as Coquina Maximus. Then, of course, his great run in the WWE as Yokozuna. He captured not only the WWF heavyweight belt twice, he also represented Japan quite well for an American Samoan. Yokozuna would die of, wait a minute, wasn't he Japanese? Yokozuna would die of a pulmonary edema, a buildup of fluid in the lungs. He weighed 580 pounds at the time of his death.
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. I think we talked about it on one of the most recent episodes, probably about his birthday. But WWE Network has the Icons episode with him. Mm-hmm. And it does take in his last days where he was doing the indies. And it's a very sad ending for him.
Yes, it was. But bless him for being alive. Also, 20 years ago, at a SmackDown taping, the Dudley Boys defeated the Hardy Boys to win the WCW Tag Team Championship. Though the titles were WWF owned, the win made the Dudleys the only duo to win the Tag Team Championships in the WWF, WCW, and ECW. They would be the last team to hold the titles as they were unified with the WWF Tag Team titles following Survivor Series a few weeks later.
Yeah, and I think they've also added Japan titles and TNA as well. So they have got quite a bit of gold. Maybe as much, if not more, than what the Road Warriors had, because Road Warriors, instead of having the ECW tag team titles, they had the AWA ones. But I think they're almost somewhat even with the legacy that both teams possess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Legion of Doom's legacy, I think, is stronger, but I think, in my opinion, the Dudley Boys are the better team. Anywho, it's a happy 34th birthday to a cheerleader and fitness model turned wrestler, Lee Van Dale, a.k.a. Carmella. And Lee is the daughter of 1990s WWF jobber Paul Van Dale.
Yeah, so now a lot of people realize that she's second generation superstar in this case. And also this past weekend, it was announced that her and Corey Graves are engaged.
Oh, my wife will be.
Congratulations to the couple.
My wife won't be happy with that. She loves Corey Graves. Okay, moving on to October 24th. 28 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 93. Dustin Rhodes defeated Steve Austin to retain the WCW US belt. The Nasty Boys defeated Marcus Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Rick Rude defeated Ric Flair by DQ, and Vader defeated Cactus Jack in a Texas death match. The match was determined by a spin of the wheel.
Yeah, they only had the spin the wheel. They only had the spin the wheel, make the deal option there for a few times. I think the first one might have only been 92 with Jake and Sting, and then this one with Cactus and Vader. But I'm not sure how many other times they used that idea. It was a good one that went to the wayside, but WWE has brought it back with using it for NXT Halloween Havocs last year and this year.
Cool. All right. Going to another Halloween Havoc 22 years ago. It was Halloween Havoc 99. This was the first Russo Ferrara pay-per-view, so you know it's going to be shitty. Harlem Heat defeated Kidman and Conan and Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris in a three-way match to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Rick Steiner defeated Chris Benoit to win the WCW World TV belt. Sting defeated Hulk Hogan in just 3 seconds to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship as Hogan laid down for the pin. Goldberg defeated Sid Vicious via referee stoppage due to excessive bleeding to win the WCW US belt. Diamond Dallas Page defeated Ric Flair in a strap match, and Hulk Hogan defeated Sting to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
I think I need to recorrect this. Before we went on the air, I mentioned that event was supposed to be Hogan versus Sting, and that's why I got correcting that. Yeah. But as you're reading this down further, Sting and Hogan already went against each other, and Hogan
sure did.
Down. So
I don't know what happened with the Halloween Havoc 99.
Go figure. It's Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo. So I'm going to say that you were right with your notes that Goldberg did go against Sting and won the heavyweight title, but then was vacated the next night.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
The craziness of WCW under the writing team of Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo, where nobody had actual common sense to rein them in and go, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think they would have been better if they were around in 94 and 95. Maybe they would have had better luck. Anyways, of course, it was all down here, a hill from here for WCW pay-per-views, as this was their highest rated pay-per-view compared to all of their future pay-per-views. 13 years ago, AAA presented the 2008 Antonio Pina Memorial Show. which is a tribute show honoring Triple A's founder, Antonio Pina. The matches included some minis, a lumberjack match, and did you know? Sorry, I'm skipping a bunch of stuff here. So lumberjack, they do in fact have lumberjacks in Mexico, but another word for Mexican lumberjack in the Urban Dictionary is actually a sexual position. So just filling in on that fun stuff. The main event was a Thunderdome cage match where the winning team was led by Conan, and he took possession of an urn containing the remains of founder Antonio Pina. Of course, as I rate some of these things in, they just don't flow sometimes.
Yeah, and they actually had the ashes of Antonio there. The Conan and a team won.
Apparently.
Who writes this stuff? I don't think Russo and Ferraro were down in AAA.
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
I'm surprised they didn't do that. All right. 11 years ago, a post-fight interview from the previous night went viral and got wrestling fans salivating. MMA reporter Ariel, or is it Ariel or Ariel? I don't know.
Ariel Helwani.
All right. Was interviewing UFC fan The Undertaker when Brock Lesnar, moments after losing the UFC heavyweight championship to Cain Velasquez, exchanged glances with The Undertaker, who then, of course, responded if he wanted to do this. Apparently, Brock did have heads up that The Undertaker was there, so he happened to walk by at the right time, and some improv would provide magic. Eventually, they would, of course, meet up at WrestleMania 30. And we all know what happened there.
The streak ended.
It's a happy 50th birthday to Dale Christian Tolberg, a.k.a. former pro ball player, the Kiss Demon.
The good old cross-promotion with Kiss.
Yes. The Demon would join Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse in a stable known as Dark Carnival. When WCW shut down, Tolberg returned to Major League Baseball and became a strength coach for the Montreal Expos, the Florida Marlins, and the Chicago White Sox, with the latter two making it to the World Series in 2003 and 2005. He also worked on a pair of movies, Mr. Baseball and A League of Their Own. He and his wife, WCW's Asia, has been married for 20 years. He might have had a kind of not a good run in WCW, but good on him after that. He had a lot of success in baseball. And today would have been the 87th birthday of Juanita Wright, a.k.a. Sweet Sapphire, who passed away at the age of 61 in 1996. And no one could quite move polka dots the way she did.
Nope.
Moving on, October 20th.
Got her benefactor money.
Sorry?
She got her beneficiary money from the $1 Million Man who bought her all the different gifts just to get her away from Dusty, and then took them back and she kicked her to the curb.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Sapphire, though. I think, she, I don't think she was bad, but I don't know. I didn't like her too much. But when she did get bought out by the $1 Million Man, yeah, that was good. All right, October 25th, 29 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 92. Rick Rude defeated NWA World Heavyweight Champion Mashiro Chono by DQ. Harley Race and Kenzuki Sasaki were special referees. Ron Simmons defeated the Barbarian to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And Sting defeated Jake Roberts in a coal miner's glove match. The match stipulation was determined by the spin of the wheel. And Ron Simmons and the Barbarian fought for the WCW World Belt. Wow.
Yeah. Kind of hurting their roster was in 92. No offense to Ron Simmons or anything like that, but just to see that as a booked match, I don't know. And then I think also during that Jake Roberts Sting match, Jake got actually bit by his own snake as well on the last one.
Well, he deserved it. 23 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 98. This was the one with the terrible Hogan Warrior rematch from 1990 and the main event of Goldberg Page that was cut short on pay-per-view due to going overtime, forcing WCW to air the match on Nitro, which was the highest rated match with 7.78 million viewers at the time. This would be the last time Nitro would beat Raw in ratings head-to-head.
Talk about poor planning with your timing for satellite use.
Yep, whoever, is the guy behind the curtain making sure that things stay on time, they suck. Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell defeated the Giant and Scott Steiner to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Bret Hart defeated Sting to retain the WCW US belt. Hollywood Hogan defeated the Warrior, which was voted Observer's Readers as the worst match of 98. And that shows you how not to use flash paper. Goldberg defeated Diamond Dallas Page to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Seems like a little bit of a coincidence that two horrible matches for Hulk Hogan both involved flash paper. This one with Warrior, and of course his final WWF match in 1993, losing to Yokozuna, was also flash paper, except for this came from a cameraman into Hogan's face, and both times it just looked horrible.
Yeah, flash paper is all about timing, and if you don't practice it, it's magic. It's basically what it is. You're trying to make it look like there's fire coming out of nowhere, but a lot of them don't do a very good job at that because they don't do it very often. 22 years ago on Raw's War, Ivory defeated the Fabulous Moolah to win the WWF Women's Championship. And over on Nitro, the Filthy Animals, Conan and Billy Kidman, defeated Harlem Heat to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship for the second straight Nitro. And Bret Hart defeated Goldberg to win the WCW US belt. This was also a first round match in the WCW World Heavyweight Championship tournament, as the title was vacated following the events of Halloween Havoc the previous night.
Yeah, I think it culminates at Mayhem, which was in Toronto, and one of the only WCW pay-per-views I actually went to because it was also a back-to-back WWE on Saturday at the Sky Dome and WCW at ACC in November. So we'll probably get to that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it was a decent show. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Had great seats, and it was fun. 12 years ago, WWE presented Bragging Rights. The show featured a 1-hour Iron Man match and an elimination tag team match featuring members of Raw taking on members of SmackDown for bragging rights and a trophy. Team SmackDown, Chris Jericho, Kane, Finlay, R-Truth, Matt Hardy, and the Hart Dynasty defeated Team Raw, consisting of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, the Big Slow, Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger, Kofi Kingston, and Mark Henry. And John Cena defeated Randy Orton 6-5 in an Anything Goes 60-minute Iron Man match to win the WWE Championship. Cena scored the deciding fall by submission with 5 seconds remaining. If Cena lost, he would have been forced to leave Raw. And I don't know, so this is October, and they have bragging rights. Why didn't they come up with something else? And this should have been done, say, at a Survivor Series?
Well, that's what Survivor Series basically become, is now Survivor Series bragging rights. They just haven't attached that tag to it because it's Raw versus SmackDown. And a couple of years ago, it was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT.
Yeah, that's one of those shows, Survivor Series, that was good at one time and now is shit. 13 years ago today, the Blue Demon Jr. defeated Adam Pearce to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The win made Demon the first Mexican-born wrestler and the second masked wrestler, joining Abyss, who did it in 2006, in the history of the NWA to win the 10 pounds of gold. And it's a happy 63rd birthday for the father of the Japanese death match, Atoshi Onita. Moving on to October 26th. 24 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 97, best known to fans as Age in the Cage, featuring Rowdy Piper defeating Hollywood Hogan via submission in a steel cage match. This bout would win a Wrestling Observer's newsletter's worst match of the year. Damn, Hogan is really good at Halloween Havoc, so getting the worst match. Also on the card, Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated Eddie Guerrero in a title versus mask match to win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. The bout won WCW's Match of the Year award for 97. So some awards there for good and bad.
Yeah, and whenever they talk about Eddie against Rey, you always see usually that match with them from the Halloween Havoc, and Rey's wearing all purple for it.
Which is just a terrible, terrible outfit, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
23 years ago on Nitro from Phoenix, Arizona, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Bret Hart to win the WCW United States Championship. The show opened with the replay of the WCW World Heavyweight Championship match from Halloween Havoc between Goldberg and DDP, as, of course, the match went dark the night before because they don't know how to keep time. The show would be the final time Nitro outrated Raw. 13 years ago, something just popped up in front of me here. There we go. 13 years ago, WWE presented Cyber Sunday. Matches included the Honky Tonk Man defeated the WWE Intercontinental Champion Santino Marella by DQ. Other challengers for Santino were Rowdy Piper and Goldust, getting the lowest votes. Batista defeated Chris Jericho to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Steve Austin easily won the referee spot with 74%, and the others don't really matter, but it was Michaels who only got 22% and Orton at 4%. That's, I don't know, Michaels, did he maybe feel sad that night? Because he'd been a referee many, many times, and Steve kicked the shit out of him.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a happy birthday to CM Punk. He is 43, and he's nothing but a crybaby. It's a happy 34th birthday to Canadian-born Jenna Grattan, a.k.a. Portia Perez. And it's a happy 72nd birthday to Dungeon of Doom leader Kevin Francis Sullivan.
Sullivan!
Ah, that's better. It's a happy 71st birthday to Hillary Diane Rodman Clinton. In 2008, Clinton, along with Obama and Senator John McCain, all appeared on Raw in pre-recorded messages encouraging viewers to vote. And the last birthday for October 26th, it's a happy 48th birthday to Taiko Yoshida, best known to wrestling fans as Taka Michinoku. He was trained by the great Suzuki. Yoshida wrestled notably for Frederican Universal de Lucha Libre, UWF, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, before gaining exposure in the States for Extreme Championship Wrestling following his performance at their first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. Michinoku would join the WWF to bolster their new light heavyweight division and become champion. He would also win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship with Dick Togo, and I still believe he is active wrestler.
Yeah, he's active, I think, still over in Japan. Great talent. And then him with Kai and Tai when they were doing the heel thing.
That was
and,
great.
Of course, we saw them come in, four or five times during the one Royal Rumble where he accidentally got his face smashed, and Funaki continued to make the run-ins. But yeah, when they became a comedy act, but great talent overall.
Yeah, I mean, Michinoku proved that he was a very good wrestler. It is a little shame that he was resorted to comedy, but he took it in stride, and I think they were, quite popular tag team. You knew they weren't going to go very far, but who cares? They were fun. October 27th, 34 years ago at a WWF Superstars taping, Strikeforce, Rick Martell and Tito Santana, defeated the Hart Foundation to win the WWF Tag Team Championship.
I marked out huge. I was a huge Strikeforce fan, and that being only October of '97, I think I was only a year into my fandom by that point, and to see them take the titles from Bret and Anvil was like, oh, especially after the story that they had also going into there with the fact that Tom Zenk had walked away from Rick Martell, and Rick was looking for a new tag team partner, and Tito stepped up and everything that got them together. Their history was somewhat of a minor version of the Mega Powers because, then we had the injury that took out Martell coming back and splitting up when Martell returned back at Mania 5. And, of course, losing titles to Demolition at Mania 4. So they only held the titles for maybe, five-ish months. But still, one of my favorite tag teams.
Yeah, and Rick Martell didn't lose any sleep when he left Strikeforce, but Tito apparently did because he would wear those boots of his with the lightning bolt on it for quite some time after they split. Guess he couldn't afford to get the ones with the little Mexican hat on it. 31 years ago, NWA presented Halloween Havoc, Terror Rules the Ring. This was the last Halloween Havoc to be presented under the NWA banner. Stan Hansen defeated Lex Luger to win the NWA United States Championship. Sting defeated Sid Vicious to retain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Sid originally was declared the victor, but it was revealed that Sid pinned a fake Sting when the real Sting emerged from the back. The match was restarted with Sting going on to win. So it wasn't the first. This was the first time there was a fake Sting, I think. And we thought it was nearly 20 years later, but they done the fake Sting thing before.
Yeah, well, the fake Sting in 1990 and then 96, early 97 with Cobra doing the fake Sting. What was his name? His last name was Farmer. It was the fake Sting for the NWO. Mm-hmm. So they loved having fake Stings.
Fake Sting. 30 years ago, WCW presented Halloween Havoc 91. This is the one with the infamous Chamber of Horrors match. The match can only be won when someone pulled the final lever after someone was hooked into the electric chair. It was terrible, with the half of the scheduled wrestlers being replaced for this match, which was the first match of the pay-per-view card. This match is not to be confused with the Thunderdome match with Muda. I believe this is the one where Mick Foley was in, was he not? And the lever was already down, so he put it back up. So
yeah,
it
that's what I was going to mention. That's what I was going to mention. And then there was also a part of it that caught on fire in the one corner or something like that. Just a train wreck of a match, and that was before even having Russo and them there. And I don't think Bischoff was even in charge at that time because this is 91, so Bischoff might have been just getting there. This might have been a Jim Herd, the pizza guy, incarnate time of WCW.
Yeah, it
just bad management.
The cage looked cool, but that was about it. Also on the card, Brian Pillman defeated Richard Morton to become the first WCW light heavyweight champion. And the WCW Halloween Phantom defeated Tom Zink. Post-match, the Phantom revealed himself to be the returning Ravishing Rick Rude.
No.
Yeah. 29 years ago, WWF taped the 31st edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. This was one of the last ones that they did. They do one more special, I think, later in the next year. And then that was it for the Saturday Night's Main Event for many, many years. On this one, the Ultimate Maniacs, the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage defeated Money Inc., which was, of course, Ted DiBiase and IRS by countout in a WWF Tag Team Championship match. Shawn Michaels defeated the British Bulldog to win the WWF IC belt, which I believe was his first major belt that he won in the WWF. And then Bret Hart. Sorry?
Who was that?
Shawn Michaels. I believe that was his first championship in the WWF, because we're not counting the tag one that he won for seconds.
Yeah, it was his first.
And Bret Hart defeated Papa Shango by submission to retain the WWF Championship. And, you know, that's one of those things where I think the Shawn Michaels British Bulldog match should have been the main event.
For sure. What throws me off about this whole thing is another big tag team of megastars put together as a team. Calling them the Ultimate Maniacs, I can see, but not at the same time, because if you look at this picture of them on the screen, they're wearing red and yellow. Why? They should have had a different color scheme because Hogan wasn't involved with this. It should have been something other than Maniacs, because Hogan is associated with the word Maniacs.
Yeah.
It should have been Ultimate Madness or something like that instead, because they were doing that as the Ultimate Maniacs there. But then the Mega Maniacs were Hogan and Beefcake. That made sense. And they wore the red and yellow going into WrestleMania 9 against Money Inc. But Warrior and Savage, I didn't get why they were having to wear red and yellow. They should have had their own colors, not Hogan colors.
Yeah, maybe they were ordered a while ago and it was supposed to be Hogan and Warrior.
Who knows?
Who knows? 28 years ago in Blackburn, England, Martin Lund and Sid Udi, a.k.a. Arn Anderson, and Sid Vicious, got into a heated hotel room scuffle, with Arn Anderson being stabbed 20 times and Sid with 4 stab wounds. So Sid won that one. And both men would, of course, kiss and make up years later.
That's because Arn Anderson didn't have his Glock with him. If you're familiar with his comments lately on AEW, telling Cody Rhodes nobody hijacks him, he'd take his gun out, and obviously Arn Anderson didn't have his gun with him, and that's why they had scissors. And Sid was able to only get 4 stabs, because if Arn had his gun, who knows?
He would have been a murderer, and that would be
sure. I think I do recall some fans bringing that up in the audience. I'm not sure what event it was, to be honest, but I do recall somebody with a pair of scissors, like really large ones, made a cardboard, and one said Sid, one said Arn on it at some pay-per-view. So it didn't go under the radar.
25 years ago, WCW presented another Halloween Havoc. This one was Dean Malenko defeating Rey Mysterio Jr. to win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. The Outsiders, Nash and Hall defeated Harlem Heat to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. And Hollywood Hogan defeated Randy Savage to retain the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The show would end with the WCW debut of Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yeah, and that was worthwhile. I love Piper, but, Oh, and for those watching right now, I said I had a picture of one of the sets that we both love. WWE's brought some of it back with the look of what they do with NXT, but not to this extent. And with the big inflatable in the center, and the demon and the pumpkin, and that was definitely one of their best sets WCW ever had.
And it's interesting that the sponsor here is Snickers. I wonder, did WCW have Snickers first as their sponsor?
No, possibly.
Because I know WWF had Snickers later on. So I'm wondering if they actually picked up Snickers once WCW went bye-bye.
Anything's possible. And Randy Savage had brought over his deal with Slim Jim to WCW. And that's what basically paid Randy's contract over in WCW. Not much money came out of their pockets. It was all Slim Jim money. And I think some of that Slim Jim money went to pay Lanny Poffo to be there and to sit at home because he wasn't used. But yeah,
maybe they just paid Lanny Poffo and Slim Jims. 18 years ago on Raw, Chris Jericho defeated Rob Van Dam to win the WWE Intercontinental Championship, only to lose the title moments later in a steel cage match back to Rob Van Dam when co-general manager Stone Cold Steve Austin ordered a rematch for that night. 7 years ago today, WWE presented Hell in a Cell. Randy Orton defeated Daniel Bryan in a Hell in a Cell match to win the vacated WWE Championship. Shawn Michaels was the special referee for that one. 13 years ago on Raw, CM Punk and Kofi Kingston defeated Legacy, which was Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr., to win the World Tag Team Championship. And we got a birthday for October 27th. It's a happy 56th birthday to Bruno Lawler, I should say, a.k.a. Harvey Whippleman. He was born in Pennsylvania. He broke into the wrestling business at age 14 by breaking down the ring after wrestling shows at a circus in exchange for free admission. He would eventually land in Memphis as Downtown Bruno and would become one of the top managers in the territory. He would manage the Warlord and Big Bully Busick before managing Sid Vicious and others as Dr. Harvey Whippleman in the WWF. Near the end of his TV run, Whippleman would become the first and only male to hold the WWF's women's belt, defeating the Cat dressed as a woman. Through 2001, where he transitioned to road agent duty and today serves as WWE's unofficial concierge. Lawler wrote an autobiography released in 2008, Wrestling with the Truth.
Yeah, and what some people don't know also, unless I've just recently seen stuff on, I believe it's WD.com, The Rock ended up buying Bruno a new vehicle because he'd been living in his trailer or vehicle for a while. But also, that was also a thank you for everything that Bruno did for Dwayne, because I guess at the age of 15, Dwayne was actually living with Bruno for a time. And I imagine they'll get to that part in one of the seasons, whether it's next season for Young Rock or future ones. They'll hopefully have Dwayne with Bruno, because I think one of the ages that takes place for Young Rock is high school, and it could be around that same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if they write that into the show.
All right, our final day for this trip is October 28th. 32 years ago, NWA presented WCW Halloween Havoc, settling the score. God, are you sick of Halloween Havocs? Ric Flair and Sting defeated the Great Muta and Terry Funk in a Thunderdome cage match, which had a small fire prior to the match caused it was electrified. The match could only end when one of the managers threw in the towel on their team's behalf. Ole Anderson nailed Gary Hart, causing Hart's towel to fly into the ring, causing special referee Bruno Sammartino to end the match. And 14 years ago, WWE presented Cyber Sunday. Rey Mysterio defeated Finlay in a stretcher match, and the main event saw Triple H defeat Umaga in a street fight. The street fight was the stipulation of choice with 57%, followed by a steel cage at 26 and the first blood match at 17. Oh, sorry, and this was probably the main event. Batista defeated The Undertaker to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the overwhelming choice for special referee with 79%. The other options were Mick Foley and JBL.
Like I said, one other week, probably even last week, I wouldn't mind a version of Cyber Sunday being brought back for Raw or SmackDown as a TV special, and they could end up making it happen. The whole show doesn't have to be that. Just sprinkle in some fun here and there and let the fans be interactive.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see now. 9 years ago, WWE presented Hell in a Cell. The Big Show defeated Sheamus to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And CM Punk defeated Ryback in a Hell in a Cell match to retain the WWE Championship. The loss was the first for Ryback since he joined the main roster. And it's a happy 41st birthday for Christina Lee Hemme. And that is it for this week in wrestling history, which is compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And a big thank you always to our sponsor, Coolbet, Coolbet.com, and sportsbook betting and casino games. Check them out. Stay cool and bet responsibly.
Yeah, always thankful for our sponsor that way. They do all our shows, including the Predictions League, where you can win this championship belt, and people are gaining points for that. We just finished a weekend with 2 events in one weekend, and always thankful for Coolbet to be a part of our family of shows. So
we're at 58 minutes.
Yeah. We got it there done. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to have Ontario Indie Road Trip Show. A lot of Halloween shows coming up all around Ontario, so you won't want to miss out on that. Support indie wrestling and get out there. Thank you, Chris, for being a part of this. Be sure to like and subscribe to us. Send us an email at scumbagswrestling@gmail.com if you have any comments, questions, concerns, and always follow us and join us on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, Facebook, best way of getting to us. So until next week, enjoy your day and happy Halloween.